Hi again, guys. So we're going to just get straight into this. So this is obviously part two, and we'll go straight into the questions.
Hi there, Caleb. My name's Jamie Mackay. I'm a master swimmer with BSM Muscat. Mostly I do open water, long distance racing, 10k and above. I have a kind of two-part question. One of my weaknesses is the start of a race. Obviously, I race masters level in open water, and one of my weaknesses is the start of the race and trying to stay with the faster swimmers. I can maintain a decent speed throughout the race, but it's actually just staying with them at the beginning. And I know you have experience in open water 10k where they do a lot of drafting. I think it's something that it's really difficult to practice. I'm just wondering if you have any hints and tips on how to get better at the start of a race. I think this goes for a lot of the master swimmers in the club as well. If you do triathlon, struggle at the start, maybe to try and pick up the speed of maybe somebody that's a little bit faster than them to get a better time. So it's really if you have any hints or tips of how to start a race better, and then also maybe any sort of techniques on drafting, trying to stay with a pack of people. So I hope you're safe and well, and take care.
Cool,
Bye.
lovely question. So I actually get asked this question quite a lot when I do some other coaching business on drafting and starting a race. So being a 10k swimmer, obviously you know the main important thing about doing 10k is actually sort of getting to the end and making sure that if you're in that spot, you have enough energy at the end to sort of finish strong and finish the race well. But it becomes a little bit of a difficulty if to get to that point you have to be way behind the pack. We could say what the aim is basically to stay with the pack as efficiently as possible, and then when you get to the end, say last kilometre, normally it's the last 100 metres that it starts really picking up, and then basically come through to the front and finish first, hopefully. So in terms of starting the race, what we had many other swimmers in our type of races. We have a guy, so Ferry Vietman, who's currently Olympic champion, world champion, however many names behind he's done. He actually doesn't start a race very quickly, so he starts a race in a different style. He will wait till everyone's jumped in, dived in, and off they go, and he'll just jump in afterwards and just make sure that he's safe at the back of a very large pack, basically, and all the way through he'll build his pace until he basically comes in first at the end. It's a tough strategy because if you have a break in the pack, so you probably know about this when you have a whole large bunch of swimmers and then they decide to break away, so you have the front pack that are going a lot quicker than the back pack, and this is what causes a divide in the packs. And normally if you sat at the back of this pack and you're actually quick enough to stay with this pack, it's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of effort to actually swim all the way through all these swimmers to then try and also catch up the gap that's being forced along by this front pack. Same as like they're doing the Tour de France type thing. What I used to do is actually normally sit at the front of that pack and sort of just sit on people's drafts, as you're saying. The way to do that is, I'd say, as much as you an open water swimmer, distance swimmer in that sense, I never at my individual pace let go of my sprinting capabilities. So as weird as I say, for an endurance runner, especially an open water swimmer, your ability to switch on to a very quick speed is very important. If you say a pack, you see a gap opening, your job at that certain point is to make sure that you're not sat too far behind that front pack leaving. So you have to either put a motor on and get onto the back of the front pack, or you have to be the person to decide, oh, well, let's try and break that pack. And so you have to put a very sudden burst of speed. And so speed play within training actually becomes quite an important element in open water, as weird as people might think that. Especially when you go watch any type of World Cups or World Championships at the last 100 metres. If you see the type of speeds that all of a sudden people will click onto, they're going very quickly until 990 metres, or 9,900 metres. And that last 100 metres, you'll find them suddenly drop to 57, 56 points. And you have to be able to do that in order to come in first or get to that type of point. And that is trained by speed play. So making sure that in your sessions you don't disregard actually swimming fast and hard and you actually think about doing some anaerobic training in that type of sense to actually get that speed. So at the start of the race, you're more than able to basically keep up with that pack, but it's not killing you that you're going to be now suffering at the back. In terms of drafting, this question comes in quite a lot. So what I'll do is I'll put up a few pictures, probably one here and one here, which will describe what exactly different types of drafting you can do. There's behind the back of drafting, so where you literally just sit behind somebody's feet. With that, you find a lot of issues with splash. So if somebody's kicking quite hard, you get a lot of splash. You might get a little bit of water in your face when you're breathing. But you're saving quite a bit of energy just sat behind that person, and especially in open water. If you sat in that position and you see a splash and you can notice their feet and where they are, you don't have to lift your head up too much, which saves you a lot of effort, as you probably know if you're sighting for right buoys and all that. It saves you the effort of basically lifting your head, as long as you trust the person in front of you is going the right way. So sat behind them, you get quite a good draft, but it's not as beneficial as being on the side of them. So the picture that will come up now, this is basically where you'll find the optimum type of drafting position. The issue with this position is you're very close to the swimmer next to you, basically, and you're a bit vulnerable and not vulnerable in terms of, think about if you're swimming next to somebody for the whole race. In swimming in this position, if you're the front swimmer, you're being pulled back. You can physically feel it being pulled back. And what that does is being pulled back starts to annoy that front swimmer and really tires them out. So you might find them becoming a bit aggravated. And this is where normally arguments and fights start actually happening in an open water sequence, because you normally find somebody sat there and they don't want to move and they don't want to others sit on the front for a little bit to try and keep the pace going. And so you'll start seeing elbows and hands and all that type of flying, and all that person will just decide to stop, and then you're left with no draft. So it's using that type of draft at the right point. I normally say use it towards the end of the race, especially if somebody starts to switch on a pace. You want to get into that channel of where they are, so you see a little line. You want to sit on that shoulder of theirs really hard, and the reason you do that is basically it will tire them out and they won't be able to move anywhere. In terms of Sonny probably won't want to hear this, but if Sonny at the moment, he trains quite a lot, very quick at sprinting. If he wanted to outsprint me in that type of situation, I would hop on his shoulder. He wouldn't be able to move anywhere, and I'll just wait for him to wear himself out, and then I'll just disappear. And if you do it in training, you'll see the type of benefits. And a person, maybe even if it's the best thing of do it yourself, sit at the front and then sit at the sides. And with a group of people, just change around the positions where you sit. The best place I normally find to sit for drafting is right by the feet, just below on the side of them. That way you're not pulling them hard too much, but they're giving you a good pull anyway, and you're also staying away from any type of potential things of water coming in your face and all that. And you just need to obviously notice that you don't then knock into the person next to you and that. But I'll put up, as I said, I've put up those examples of drafting positions. In training, what we used to call flight simulations. If you take a position and say you've got three of you, just alternate. Swim 400 meters, do say 5 400s, and you'll just say this length we have to sit in a line, so one behind the other. After this length, the person at the back has to get all the way to the front, and then you just continue that motion, and you just do that the whole session through for the 400, and you change it, say we're going to sit on the sides of each other, and you just rotate it anti-clockwise, clockwise, whichever way. And we used to do that because in open water, it's very much like the Tour de France. You end up swapping positions, you have to change positions where you are. You'll have a position you feel more comfortable in, but when you get into, say, a pack breaking away, you have to work as a unit to get away from the pack that's sort of behind you. Otherwise, if you allow one person to sit at the front and do all the work, your pack speed's going to just suffer. They might be really quick to start off with, and then slowly they'll get tired, and then your speed will just get slower, so the pack will catch you up. But yeah, in terms of, that's my advice for that type of situation in open water. A great question there. Next one.
Hey Caleb, what are the positives that you are expecting from swimmers once they are back into the pool?
Okay, so the positives I expect from swimmers once they're back in the pool, I feel a lot of swimmers will actually feel a lot better in themselves after having about this amount of time off. If you consider a lot of professional swimmers would have only had about 5 weeks to 6 weeks at very maximum off in their season, from normally it's about August to September time, and that's normally their break that they're allowed to have, and then there's obviously training all the way through. So this type of time period will have allowed a lot of swimmers to sort of, I say, rejuvenate and feel a lot better about themselves. It's one thing when you get to that type of level of an athlete, you don't get a lot of rest. Rest becomes very important in your strategy to recover and grow. And so it will allow a lot of swimmers to recover, maybe become better in themselves mentally as well. Once they're back in the pool, I think they'll almost also find a new love for the sport type of thing. Of if you say go without ice cream for a lot of time, and then all of a sudden you get it tastes like the best thing ever. So it's that type of concept in terms of I can come up with. I feel it'll do a lot of good for swimmers. However, obviously with the type of championship platforms like the Olympics being delayed till next year, and it might actually be postponed and called off completely, and so then it's going to be 2024. It'll be very difficult for some athletes which say, at the end of their periods of actually competing, because a lot of them will either have a decision at the end of this, if say the Olympics aren't going ahead for 2021, which we'll probably only find out until 2021, it will be a situation where, well, you've had a whole generation of athletes that have trained for this specific point in time in 2020, and they haven't actually been able to compete there, and then that's going to be the end of their career. So it's going to be a very difficult point, and it will depend on what swimmer to the other swimmer of how it's going to be. But I believe in terms of a lot of swimmers are going to come back in and have a lot more love for the sport, and also a lot more trainability. So they'll be willing to put a lot more effort in, because it's something that now people won't take for granted. That's there all the time. So that's what I believe this type of thing will do for it. Okay, great question. The next one.
Hi Caleb, my question to you is, what do you do to keep yourself consistent over long distances, and what made you choose open water swimming over lap racing?
Okay, so what do I do to keep myself consistent? I used to basically just train very hard and a lot. So I would, at my prime, basically be doing something around 80k a week in my hard segment. And as I said earlier, it's very much a thing of, we used to make sure that we would be able to hit certain paces and certain times, sort of no matter what, and it was that type of thing that we had to train ourselves to do. So we would, as I said, like one of my favourite session, my favourite session. I didn't like this session. My coach loved this session, but we used to do it every time. Was about like 6100s. I remember it's like Saturday mornings we used to do it sometimes. 6100s. And they'd be off a descending and then an increasing pace. So depending on how you did per 100, depending on how much rest you sort of had. So let's say they were normally off about a 115 base. Sometimes they were off a 110 base if our coach didn't like us that weekend, I guess. But normally 115, 120 base. And so you get about 10 seconds rest to 5 seconds rest, depending on the thing. Let's say you had to hit the 68 pace all the way through. You'd be going 68, 65s all the way through. And let's say you start to slip up and you don't hit that 68 pace, or you're meant to go down to 66 pace. Our rest would actually just then suddenly decrease all of a sudden a little bit. And it's a bit of a harsh way to do it, but what it does do is it allows your body to go, I have to hit this pace, and your body know what that pace feels like. And if you miss that pace, you, like in a race, let's say the pack starts breaking away, you would have to actually put a little bit more effort in back to get on that pace. And so what reducing that time period would actually help train you to become a quicker swimmer to catch up to that pack, basically. But that's, in terms of consistency, it's very much how you train for that type of basis. I also say pacing is very key. I'd say probably one of my best things that I, as a swimmer, was able to do was pace a race. A lot of people would say, you either just go off very hard and strong and try and hope and hold on. I used to be able to know a certain region of where I could swim up to, very hard, and I could hold that for say 400, 500, 600 meters, depending on what pace I was going, and I know that in myself. So it's very much getting to learn and know your body to say, I can swim at this speed, and then I can do this for this much, and then say it's a 400 meter race, I can swim. I know I can do minute points for 300 meters, but that's pretty much my limit. What I'd do is I'd go out at semi-top harder, so like a 56, and then you'd hopefully then drop a minute in, and then maybe a 1-on-1, and then you try and drop down to a 59 or something, that type of pace, if you're going for like a 4-minute pace thing. And so it's a very much learning your body and knowing how to and when to use your maximum speed and when not to use your maximum speed, because going to the maximum point obviously drains your energy or your ATP, if we're going to get very very key onto how we do things. But it's just knowing your body basically, and training enough and knowing those points to go, I can swim to this speed and I better not go any quicker just yet, because I won't finish the race strong enough, or I won't finish it hard enough. And it's basically training up to the right level then. Cool, but great question.